Hi, I'm Dr. Gemma, and welcome back to Cognitive, the Knitting Psychology podcast. Cheerfully and somewhat irregularly in business since 2008. Segments today may include what's on my hooks, needles, and spindles, a strategy, something I really like, put a lid on it, oh shoot, and blather. So sit back, put your feet up, pick up your knitting, crocheting, spinning, weaving, or dyeing, or any other yarny thing you're doing, and get ready to enjoy. Hi, it's Dr. Gemma, and welcome back to Cognitive. We are at episode 37, and if you go to the show notes, which happen to live at cognitivepodcast.blogspot.com, or on our Ravelry group, you can do two things. One, you can leave your comments, which I would love to hear and interact with. And two, you can admire Eleanor. Okay, look. Eleanor's hanging around the house. She's 9 years old. She is spectacular. Stop it. Beautiful. She's making me say this stuff. Okay? See the look on the show notes? That's the look I'm getting. Say it. She says, say it. Tell them I'm beautiful. At any rate, you can see Eleanor in our show notes. Interestingly enough, we sent off the monthly report to her vet with her nose, and the vet is outstandingly happy. The vet says, her nose is all scar tissue now. I'm sorry, it looks like a dog nose to me. But we like the vet. She's great, which is good because, Miss Minerva needs to get her shots, okay? Okay. I'll have to play this back when I edit it through the earphones. Okay, but anyway, we have a good vet and that's working well. So we are all happy because Elle's nose is happy. In the cognitive fiber retreat developments, I really did think of a fiber retreat, but no. We're back in masks in LA County. I'll come back to that. But I just want to point out, people have been asking me, no, I'm really sorry. I'm really concerned that we won't even get to Stitches West next year. No, I have heard no rumors. No, I am not on anybody's short list to give rumors about Stitches West to. Let me tell you, I miss these so badly. On the other hand, I am really grateful because I'm getting through my old stash. So if I make it to Stitches in 2022, I sure hope I do, to be honest. I got a date with some Knitmores, I'm just saying. But if I make it to Stitches 2022, I'm buying fiber because I'm whizzing through my fiber and I love it. I'm not doing anything in order today. You know why? Because of this week. This was a weird week. And I'm not going to be able to describe much of it on the podcast because most of it was related to my job. But it was like, name one weird thing it dropped from the heavens on me this week. So here in Weird Week, I guess I'm just not doing anything in a normal order. However, I started to tell you about the fiber retreat because I also wanted to tell you, for no particular reason, at the same time, that I'm still not adding people to my social network groups because I have been so spammed by robo accounts. Please, if you'd like to follow me, you can follow me right there on the blog at cognitivepodcast.blogspot.com. And you can contact me there or on Ravelry, either by my name, Gemma DW, or in the group on Ravelry for Cognitive. Okay? But I feel bad because I know some people are trying to add me, and I can't right now. It's just gotten too weird, and I'm just sort of keeping those things close right now. All right, let's go on to the warm thanks department because this is one of those wonderful moments. And you're going to hear about this all through this episode, I think. I would like to send my warm thanks to Mr. Nice Guy behind the counter at Mockingbird Moon, a store on Telegraph Road in Ventura, California. And if you go to the show notes, you can see all the information, including its link, which is mockingbirdmoonshop.com, because there's actually a very famous yarn store, I have no idea where, called Mockingbird Moon. And then this is called Mockingbird Moon. Why they're both called that, I couldn't tell you. But anyway, Mockingbird Moon is a metaphysical store in Ventura. So if you've been listening to me for a while, you know that last September I took a week off. And I ended up spending it in Ventura because of the fires here in our area. And I didn't mean to stay there, but I ended up staying there because I had so many points accumulated in my app, Bonvoy for Marriott, which is also now my favorite, Sheraton, that I could stay. So I just stayed and stayed. Okay. While I was there, I didn't know what to do with myself because I was used to being in LA County and being very locked down. And last September in Ventura County, there was a little more freedom. And I had this shocking moment where I discovered I could go to Barnes & Noble. And I have to tell you this, the last time I went to Ventura, I went to Barnes & Noble. Here's what I found. The same thing I found last September. Everybody was being really careful, social distancing, and wearing masks. When I went into a coffee shop that shall not be named, nobody was wearing masks, socially distancing, or doing anything too safe, except the poor employees who were basically trapped there by schmoes who weren't trying to protect the employees from anything. What did I think was interesting? Wow, when you go to a bookstore, you're selecting for intelligent, educated people. And what were they all doing? Wearing masks, washing their hands, and using social distance. I'm just saying. Okay, so that led me to the understanding last September that I could go try out this new store I'd never seen called Mockingbird Moon. And I enjoy metaphysical bookstores. I just do. You can get cool candles, you can get essential oils, you can get books that I would never let anybody know are sitting on my shelf. I mean, I've had an awful lot of fun there. Also, because I am what I am, I really enjoy the symbolic stuff. I really enjoy the kind of Jungian psychology that comes out of the woodwork at these stores. And I went to what had been my favorite store down by Oxnard, and they'd gone nuts. They were not doing anything for safety and were saying it was all a big conspiracy. And I went in there and couldn't get out of there fast enough. And then I went and discovered Mockingbird Moon up on Telegraph. Mockingbird Moon is very easy for me to get to. It's right off the 126 for me, so that was really nice. Okay, so I go there this time. I went this past weekend, and I'm in the store. And, you know, I do what I do. I try not to do it on weekends for free, but I do what I do. So I'm in their store, and I'm just wandering around. And when I walk in, there's a guy there, and he's heavily bearded and haired. Big head of hair and all this. That's what stands out. Right, he's behind the counter. He looks like he should be riding at the head of some motorcycle gang. But there he is in this gentle little metaphysical bookstore, right? Among all the unicorns and fairies, you know. And I go in, and he just says hi. And I recognize him from my previous visits last September. And those visits last September were a lifesaver, just like my visit to Barnes & Noble, where in the middle of the pandemic, it was like this little shot of being normal. And I remembered it and was thinking about it. I'm wandering through the store, looking at every single little unicorn or animal spirit guide or everything they had, you know, because there's a lot to look at. How they get that much in this store, I'll never know, but it's really well stocked. I'm wandering around, and I hear a lot of people come in, and I notice, without looking, that this man is being kind and helpful to all of them. And it's about, 200 degrees, even in Ventura. It wasn't that bad, but it was very warm. And he has no place to sit. And he's just friendly and cheerful. And he doesn't look at all like his manner. He looks like this big, tough guy. And he's just the nicest guy. But anyway, these girls come walking in. And he was so nice to them. And they were doing this whole thing about their stress levels. And he really took the time to talk to them. And I could not resist, because one of them said, "Can you show me some stones for stress?" Now, they've got this big central counter with all these different minerals and stones and crystals. Really beautiful. So he goes over, and I had to hear this. I just had to. Why not? It's my job to. So he starts pointing at stones, and suddenly he realizes nobody can move, that everybody in the store is packed listening to him talk about this. And he just makes a joke and goes right on. And he was so sweet. And I was so moved that he just took it all nicely. He looks up. He's in this mob of people. He goes, "Okay, wait, can anybody move? Because we're all packed in." And I said, "Look, man, you said you were going to talk about stress. That's going to get a crowd." And everybody laughed, and everybody sort of separated. But I was so warmed by this guy. So I go up to the counter with the stone I wanted to buy, because I can never resist moonstones. I just have a soft spot for that lovely, radiant muted pink, So I go up and I've got this little bag for it to sit in. And he said, "Are you ready?" And I said, "Yeah." And I said to him, "I just want to tell you something," while everybody else is at the back of the store. And he said, "What?" And I said, "I was here last September. And I want you to know I felt like that one young lady. I felt really stressed. And I want you to know that you were really nice to me last September. And I see that you're being really nice to everybody here today. I just want you to know that it really matters that you do that. Even if you don't ever see why." And he looks at me and he throws, what did he throw in my bag? He throws a little polished amethyst into my bag. And he goes, "What are you doing? Trying to score a discount?" And I started cracking up. And I said, "Look," I said, "you can pretend all you want to be Mr. Tough Guy. But," I said, "you really don't understand how much a nice person matters sometimes." He starts throwing stuff into my bag and telling me I'm not the nice one. The owner is the nice one. You should leave her a nice review, blah, blah, blah. And he's throwing like incense and little tiny rocks in my bag, crystals, and a little tulle bag to put them in. And I'm dying and I'm going, "Would you stop that?" And he goes, "Stop what? What are you doing? You just want a discount?" And he's throwing stuff in my bag. And I have to tell you, I paid him. And I walked out of the store. And I turned around. And I'm not really all that spiritual, But I turned around. And I did what I remember from Reiki to bless the store. And I prayed over the store. And I'm not this kind of person, man. This is not, the Catholic Church kind of thing. But I was so deeply moved. And all I could think of was I wanted him to be as happy in that moment as he had made me. That it was so unbelievably sweet, those few minutes of him and I talking at the counter. And I just thought, wow, I'm so fortunate to have come in. And I just thought how many moments I've had in my life where this kind of absolute sweetness just concentrated in one moment. And it just moves your heart so much, and it was so perfect. So, Mr. Nice Guy at Mockingbird Moon, I don't know what the heck your name is, but you get in my warm thanks department, and frankly, you're going to bleed over into my favorite things and something I really like, and the blather. Because I'm just, as you can tell, I'm just so moved at your kindness. And they're just these little moments of absolute crystal sweetness in everybody's life, and I just want to thank this guy for giving it to me on Monday. What's on my hooks and needles? Nothing that moving. Okay, well, the jury duty shawl. I put in a picture of myself. The thing has exploded. I don't know when this happened. It was really tiny and now it's really big. And I just have this craving to sit on my bed and crochet. And the rows are now officially endless. I don't know how many rows in I am. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. I can see about 32 rows in that picture. And I'm sure there's more, because I'm just on a 5th row, so I'm probably at like row 35. Now this thing expands with every row. It expands quite a lot. When you look at it, you'll see. And I'm burping up what I'm going to talk about and put a lid on it, by the way. If you hear me burping, that's what I'm doing. But anyway, it's gorgeous. But I just have this urge to sit around and crochet mindlessly. And this is as mindless as it gets. And I'm actually making my way through this humongous ball of Apple Tree Knits yarn. And it is a medium pink fading to snow white. And I'm now in pinky white. It's hard to see the color change in the picture. It's hard to see it on the shawl because the shawl has so much negative space. But it's really beautiful. And what makes me happy is I really just wanted this. I had a shawl like this, same pattern, I made years ago out of thread, out of the most beautiful thread. And I bought up the rest of that thread, and then I think it was Lion Brand discontinued it. So I still got like a few big spools of it sitting on my shelf, but not enough, I think, to make one of these. And I took that shawl to a Mediterranean restaurant where they had belly dancing. And this is a while back, kids. I honestly don't know if my kid was even born at this point. I think he must. Of course he was. What am I saying? I had the podcast. And anyway, I went to this Mediterranean restaurant. And they had a belly dancer, and she was dancing around the tables, and she kept saying, dance with me, and nobody would dance with her. Yeah, you know it. I've taken belly dance. I got up and danced with her. And it was so much fun. And she was ululating. Do you know ululating? It sounds like this. La, 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 la. She was doing that, and I was doing it back, and we were both dancing, and I was terrible. And I didn't care, because if there is one thing in this world that is a lot of fun, it's belly dancing. No matter which variation you do. I was taught in a more Egyptian cabaret style. But let me tell you, there is just no bad way to learn to belly dance if you're a woman. It is one of the most fun and liberating things I have ever done. I learned it in my 40s, and I'm so grateful I did, because I think it has a lot to do with what flexibility I have left. Anyway, so after she and I danced, I had that shawl on, and I put it around my hips, because you always dance with a shawl around your hips, whether it jingles or it doesn't. And I put it on, and at the end of the dance, she said, sister, that was so much fun. And I just took my shawl off and said, I would like you to have this from me, because it matches your costume. And she squealed with joy and wrapped it over her shawls around her hips. And I've never been so complimented that she spent the rest of the night dancing in my shawl around her hips. And it looked phenomenal on her. So I've always wanted to make another one. Not to give away this time. And so you want it to be wide enough to go around your hips, and it is. In the original pattern, it really is big enough to go around your hips. And so I'm working on it, and I'm loving it. The really pretty socks, I think I did about 3 rows. I'm on the leg of the second sock. We're working our way towards the heel. No progress on the wild lettuce shawl, alas. I just am so tired lately, and I'll get into that. And then Twin Faces vest. Don't know where the thing is. I assume it's in the mail on its way to me. I'd love to get it finished. The temperature blanket, oh, that's happy. It's very caught up. I will see if I can get a picture of it into the show notes, because the latest picture I took is of it in its very orange phase, because that's what it looks like. And at this point, I'm into showing you pieces of it as it grows to show you what the last few weeks have been like, because now it's huge. If I put it on the bed, you see the blues and the greens from the earlier part of the year, whereas right now it's almost half oranges and yellows from the warmth. Meanwhile, I ordered more yarn for it from Knit Picks, and blessings on them. I thought they'd run out of rouge, which is, I believe, 101 to 110, and I'm hoping I don't have to use a lot of it, but I was worried because I will. August is probably going to mostly be in that color. And I was really worried about running out of it. So I bought 2 of everything. What was I thinking? I have enough of this yarn now to rule the world, if the world was ruled by people with sport weight acrylic yarn. So we'll see what that metamorphosis is into. It is beautiful. I am enjoying that yarn. It's very inexpensive. If you're going to make a blanket, it was a good choice. Dizzy Blondes. Well, really, I have been working on 2 things and thinking about how I want to use them. First off, you may remember, I had the huge 15 ounces of pin-drafted merino from Morro Bay Fleece Works, and it's phenomenal, and it's spinning really fine, which I love. And so I thought, you know what I'm going to do is 2 plies of it against a 3rd ply of a really beautiful gradient spin. I went into my stash, and I found I had one more wine mixer from Be Myself. Now, she is no longer dying. And so I'm not putting links because, again, I don't think you can really get to these things. The Morro Bay thing is catch as catch can. Whatever she has, various fleeces for sale. But I do recommend Morro Bay Fleece Works. That merino is amazing. The processing is beautiful. No drafting at all. I just sit there and let it eat the fiber out of my hands and turn it into string. But anyway, I thought maybe I don't want to do this. Maybe I want to take this last wine cooler and chain ply it and use it for the yoke of a sweater, because it's never coming back and it's really beautiful and it's really my colors. And then I realized I've already done this. I tried chain plying it once before and it became an infinity cowl. The other big amount I had of it, I think I had 2 6-ounce packages of it, and I did not like the way that came out, and so I ended up I believe I crocheted it into an infinity cowl. So I'm looking at this saying, well, I think the reason I didn't like it was, frankly, I spun it very coarsely, and I just didn't like the way it came out. So I'm debating still. Does this get plied against 2 plies of the merino to make a really interesting yarn for a sweater? Or does it get chain plied and become its own piece of yoke on a sweater. Because I have some yarn, it's a Malabrigo Rios in a color called Plomo, which is a gray with pink highlights. And I'm thinking, oh boy, would this be a great special skein in the neck, in the yoke of that. So I'm still debating it even as we speak, but I am on to my second bobbin of the merino. What I did was I spun this one huge bobbin of it as a single, and then I spun the entire packet of the gradient from Be Mice Elf because I needed a break from all the plain merino. So now I'm back spinning on the bobbin again of the plain merino, and I'm just getting way, way better with every spin on this electric Eel 6 wheel, and I'm just loving it, which means I'm now realizing it's probably time to get rid of all my wooden wheels. So if you're listening and you're interested, you should probably let me know, but I should also probably post them somewhere useful, like Greater LA Spinners Guild or whatever. At any rate, that is the story. And so there's not many pictures this week, but you can see part of the gradient in process along with the bobbin of the nice cream-colored natural merino from Morro Bay. A strategy. Well, we're still in distress tolerance and mindfulness land. And I wanted to give you a simple one this week. And this is one of those ones that makes everybody go, really? You get paid for this? Because it's so simple and so obvious, and yet the people who miss it, oh, the people who miss it. And this is just called pros and cons. That one of the best ways to handle distress is to recognize that a lot of distress comes out of faulty decision making. That people start panicking and they start going too far and they start catastrophizing. And you can stop a lot of that. Like they say, oh no, there's a towel on the floor. I should wash that towel. Well, if I wash that towel, I did this one this morning. Shouldn't I wash all the towels? Because I wash all the towels together on Fridays. And if I'm going to throw that in today, why don't I just throw all the towels in today, Wednesday? Then I don't have to do it Friday. Okay, that was me without enough caffeine, freaking out, seriously, over a towel on the floor. Part of the reason was I had left some towels in the dryer. I bought new towels and I was running them through the washer and the dryer before we used them. Anyway, this turned into this giant catastrophe in my head about the way the laundry was being done, and I can't take it anymore. Okay, now, I solved it, and the way I solved it was pros and cons. What a coincidence, I'm talking about that today on the podcast. Where I sort of said, okay, first of all, you may remember ACCEPTS, the acronym for distress tolerance using distraction. Okay, so the first thing I did was I said, I am way too flipped out over this. Now, that is actually the E of ACCEPTS, which is E for emotion. Separate the emotion from the problem. So my problem is, what do I do with dirty towel on the floor? My emotion is, I'm just bug fracking nuts right now, going crazy and blaming everybody. So I just said, all right, I really need to calm my emotion. And to calm my emotion, I thought, I need to use some kind of logical decision making about the towels. So I did pros and cons. What are the pros of washing all the towels? And what are the cons? And what are the pros of washing just this one towel? And what are the cons? Well, washing just one towel, I didn't have enough whites, so really no pros for that. The cons, of course, was we're in a drought and I'm wasting a lot of water. The pros of washing all the towels, well, I won't do it on Friday morning as I usually do it. We'll just do it, we'll have an extra 2 days on the towels this week. Big deal. So I'll get all the towels done. I won't waste water. And I won't have to worry about this Friday morning if I'm really busy, because this morning I was up early and was fine. Okay, so pros and cons, that's a nice example. First of all, it will save you from the crazy. That if you can separate your emotion enough, you can do pros and cons. Pros and cons is when you're trying to be rational about a decision. It's a really good distress tolerance skill because it moves your panic from your brain giving you, now your brain rewards you, of course, for panic, just like it rewards you for making a good plan. But when you do panic, your body punishes you with stress hormones that eventually kill you. It takes about 30 years. I have to say this every day, seriously. And so, what I'm doing when I move to pros and cons, I'm moving my brain out of the panic place. In the panic place, my brain is giving me endorphins, opiates. It's rewarding me for panicking because it can't tell what I'm doing. It just thinks I'm doing a good thing. But at the same time, my body is giving me stress hormones, which degenerate my cardiovascular system. So I want to move my brain out of that place to a place where I just get the endorphins. I just get the opiates from my brain. To do that, that's what pros and cons does. It takes you out of I'm in a mindless panic and moves you to I'm actually making a plan and thinking rationally, which will give me those same brain endorphins without releasing all the nasty corticosteroids that are going to kill me someday. So that's what pros and cons does. It moves your brain from a place of random panic that hurts your body to productive planning that does not hurt your body. Both those situations give you endorphins in your brain that reward you. That's not the problem. The problem is the bad stress hormones when you're irrational and crazy and frightened and catastrophizing. So that's the good thing about pros and cons, is you're actively relocating the chemical release strategies in your body to a place where they help you instead of helping and hurting you. Okay, but there's another thing. Please teach this to your kids. I'm begging you. This is one of the simplest things to teach kids that takes them out of that place. So when your kid is hyperventilating, panicking about an event, you stop them, you look them in the eye, and you say, what do you want to do? And they say, well, I have to go out right now and buy such and such for the party tomorrow at school. And you can stop and say, okay, let's stop, because you're thinking too late, or I don't have the money, or you don't have the money, or wrong time, or are you manipulating me, or whatever you're thinking as an exhausted parent, because of course this only happens at 10:30 at night when you have a teenager, trust me. So you look at your kid and you say to them, all right, let's look at the pros and cons of doing this. Say we have to go out and buy cookies for the kids' party the next day, and it's 10:30 at night. So what are the advantages of doing this? And you make your kid think them out. You don't supply them, because you're trying to move your kid out of panic. So you say, what good would come out of buying the cookies? Well, I wouldn't be embarrassed. I would keep my word. My friends would trust me. People would like me. That's pretty powerful. What are the cons? It's late at night. A store might not be open that has what I want. We may not have the money right now, and we don't want to go to a bank machine late at night. Okay, true, we have ATM cards. Just forget I said that. Okay, so you sit there and you say, what are the good things? Well, I can't drive myself, so you would have to drive me, and Mom, and you're in a bad mood, Mom. So that's a con, because you're going to be mean to me. Yep, probably going to be grouchy. Okay, and so now you've got something more realistic, where when your kid is working their way through the pros and cons, they will often hear what's going to go wrong or what's going to go right. And so you're giving them a chance to say, okay, look, I need you to take me to the store, Mom. It's 10:30 at night. But they may say, I'll buy you a Starbucks, because everybody needs coffee at 10:30 at night. Okay, slap. I'm dope slapping myself right now. Or they may say, Mom, if you do this for me, I'll clean the living room tomorrow morning. Like you may suddenly now be in a place where they can problem solve. Like, you don't want to take them to the store at 10:30 at night, but maybe they can offer you something. Or maybe you can come to a better plan, like, you know what, you're right, Mom, it's too late at night and the store may not even be open. If it is, it may not even have what I want. Well, Trader Joe's restocks tomorrow. Can we go in there tomorrow before you go off to your class? Or can we go to Stater Brothers tomorrow morning as soon as they open at 7? And so you may be able to problem solve from there. So when you teach your kid how to do pros and cons, how to examine, like, what would be the good things about following your plan? What would be the bad things about following your plan? What would be the good things about not following your plan? What would be the bad things about not following your plan? Okay, pros and cons is usually not just about one thing. It's usually about a thing and its opposite. So here's a towel on the floor. Pros and cons of washing this towel alone. Pros and cons of washing all the towels together. Okay, so it's not just one thing. It's the bigger picture, as big a picture as you can make. And what happens is, as you do it, you're moving your brain into a calmer place. This is a great thing to teach your teenager. Just trust me. If you haven't got one yet, you should believe me on this. That you want to get them out of the emotional high, over-determined emotions place into, hey, we can solve this problem. At the same time, you're modeling calm problem solving. Instead of your kid is screaming and irrational, you don't want to join that. So you need some strategy not to join that. So this is a way of teaching your kids as well. Let's think of the good reasons to do that and the bad reasons. And when you're doing that, you're moving your brain and the kid's brain out of a place where their body is wildly releasing stress hormones and everything is escalating into the bad. So pros and cons. Give it a try. Teach it to your kids. Put a lid on it. Okay, remember a few episodes back I talked about this recipe to make a Frosty from Wendy's? Yeah, okay, forget it. It doesn't work real well. It makes chocolate peanut butter in your fridge. However, it makes a great chocolate mousse. So I have now gotten to a place where I pull out a bowl, I pull out my hand beater with its 2 beater heads, little hand mixer, and a set of measuring spoons and a cup measure. And I have the recipe in a previous episode, but essentially I've just doctored it. So now it's chocolate whipped cream. So it's basically, roughly I'm using about a teaspoon of almond butter, 2 tablespoons of unsweetened cocoa powder, regular baking cocoa powder, about 2 teaspoons of Swerve, a half teaspoon of vanilla, baking vanilla, and I think that's it, and then a cup of heavy whipping cream. And then I take that hand mixer and I whip it till it's stiff. And it tastes like chocolate mousse, and I've gotten to a place where I can eat the whole thing, and it digests really quickly. It's keto. It's too many carbs. And a cup of heavy cream is a lot of carb. It's not a disaster, but right now I'm just addicted to it, so I'm realizing I've got to up my magnesium because I'm craving this stuff. But really, that's put a lid on it. I've just gotten addicted to it. Right now, I'm not cooking the way I'd like to be cooking. Last week, I did make some of the tomato coconut soup, which made me very happy. It was a nice change. But it's 100 flipping degrees outside Fahrenheit right now. 35 for those of you in Western Europe. Thank you. Thank you for listening. No, really, thank you. I really want to go back to Scotland. Okay, I'm over that. I really want to go visit on your trike. I'm just going to say that. If you're listening, I really want to visit you. I cannot tell you. But I also want to go to Scotland. Okay, and York. I want to go to York. Okay, I'm calm. I'm really calm. I'm going back to the chocolate fluff now. I've gotten really addicted to it. So happily, I'll shoot. I am still doing my 30 minutes on the bike. And I'm doing it about every other day because I was getting so tired I couldn't stay awake. So really, I'm trying for 3 times a week for at least 2 hours with patients. It's been really nice. Right there, if you look at it, you can see about 25 miles last week. And that's not bad for biking while you see patients, I have to tell you. And I'm surprised, after 2 hours of that, I'm surprisingly tired, but I do have the resistance cranked up a bit because I do want it to be a bit of a workout. And I realized that's how I did the gym. I did the gym 3 to 4 days a week, working out for about half an hour. And that's, in bike terms, I'm pedaling pretty easy while I talk to patients. You can't be biking so hard that you're rocking back and forth and you're not paying attention to them. But I'm really happy with this. I have to say, and this one, hats off to Fickle Knitter. Michelle had said this. I'm so happy with this. I'm so happy with this. This thing is saving my life. The boys don't use it, and I have considered getting a Peloton so they have something to work out on. I just don't know if they'd use that. I don't know if they're that interested in that. But I am really, really happy with the Fit Desk. And so there's another 25 clocked for the week. Into the fluffy books. Well, I finished Kindred by Rebecca Ragg Sykes. Links are in the show notes for these. Kindred, of course, was a sort of really tidy roundup of everything we know about Neanderthals. And it's very interesting, particularly as you get towards the end, as she starts considering issues of culture, funeral rites, clothing, and interbreeding. And it's hard to take in places. You come face to face with things that are not very romantic, like cannibalism. And that's pretty hard because they're doing it. I mean, we have evidence that they are butchering human bodies. And it looks like they're getting pretty thorough about it. So she backs away from that a bit. And it is troubling when you listen to it. At the end of the book, she does this very nice summary. She talks about, first of all, how racism has screwed up our understanding of Neanderthals, and boy, it has. There is just no question about it. I knew that even as a little kid when we talked about Neanderthals, that it was a whole racist discussion. It was all about, see, they have these primitive features, and there would always be these little nudges, like, they kind of look like Black people or Native Americans. I mean, they're all indigenous, Aborigines in Australia. There were all these little nudges that were insulting to Neanderthals, to people of color, to black people, to Aboriginal people. I mean, oh my God, even as a kid. And this really brought back a lot of that I was sitting thinking about, boy, it's really true that even in this day and age, she's got to write this comprehensive overview because we're all still raised with this horrifying misperception. And the filter is this. If you're unhappy because some of them at least were practicing cannibalism, let me get it to you clearly. This has nothing to do with Aborigines in Australia or Native Americans or black people, okay? This is a separate group, a subspecies of hominids, and they're doing what they do. And just because they did this stuff, this has nothing to do with Homo sapiens, which all of us are, okay? So that's the first thing, is please, if you're uncomfortable with some of the Neanderthal stuff, will you please stop obeying your cultural programming and associating it with non-white peoples, because it's just horrifying and embarrassing that we still do it. And her section on that is very moving and very on point. And I was very, very grateful to her, because the other thing that I kept thinking about is how when I grew up, they built malls. They discovered malls when I was very young, and they built the Neshaminy Mall. And so help me God, I will never forget this. There was a beautiful statue of a Delaware Native American, Delaware tribe, crouching by one of the fountains. And he was really magnificently done. And he was not idealized. He was actually looking pretty reasonable. And there was a lovely plaque that said, these people died out when the white people came. Well, what a convenient miracle. No, they didn't. They were marched off to reservations in Oklahoma and I think the Midwest somewhere. And you know what? We weren't told that. We were literally told as part of our education, and it was on the plaque in the mall, that they died out. Like, just happy, they died out so the white people could take over. And I thought, boy, that's the kind of BS that we've been raised with. And I have these moments of just cringing when I watch people of my generation being anti anything that's not white. And I always think of that statue, and I think, I'm so embarrassed. That statue's probably still sitting in that mall somewhere in Neshaminy, Pennsylvania, and I just want to scream. And that's one of the problems of my generation, is we are so indoctrinated. And I keep hoping that the younger generations are breaking out and that some of my generation will. But it's just horrifying when you see things like that, how this has all been perpetuated. And Rag Sykes talks about that. The other interesting thing she talks about is how we simply do not understand their culture. That she says it's really hard to dismiss cannibalism, for example, that you want to make it about economic or nutritional necessity. And she says, we actually don't know what they're doing. We don't know, are they eating them, or are they simply taking apart the bodies to the nth degree because that's part of their funeral ritual. And she says, no matter what they're doing, we just don't know what it means to them. And you can't start judging people without at least having some insight into their cultural belief system. So I recommend Kindred. There's a lot of dry spells. There's a lot of, I'm just going to cite and repeat encyclopedic amounts of very dry information. But it's very interesting to listen to Rebecca Rag Sykes try to summarize it, try to look at it from different perspectives. It's a really nice multicultural attempt. And I am grateful at this time in my life to have read it. In the meantime, in the fluffier lit, I finished Evanly Choirs. I'm reading the Constable Evans series. And I believe I've got a typo there. I'm reading the Constable Evans series by Rhys Bowen. And the links are in the show notes. And I finished Evanly Choirs, which was cute and a lot of fun. But I moved on to Evan and Elle, which I'm really enjoying for the sake of the mystery. That Bowen was getting a little too comfy by Evanly Choirs. That's like her, I think it's the third book in the series. Yeah. And, you're starting to feel like here's the formula. And Evan and Elle, she breaks out of it a little bit. And I'm enjoying that a lot. I like Rhys Bowen a great deal. I also I finished A Lady's Guide to Etiquette and Murder, which I think I said last episode. And I picked up 2 of its sequels. One of them was free on Amazon because I'm a Prime member. I have no idea why they do that, but thank you. And so I'm happily ensconced in the middle of the Constable Evans series, and I may be in the middle of the Lady Harley series. The Lady Harley series is just not very Victorian, even though it's meant to be. It feels awfully 21st century in its sensibilities, and I'm enjoying that immensely. Something I really like, well, I have a lovely picture there. I'm enjoying my essential oils, and I bought these so that I could make toilet balms to clean my toilets, and instead I wound up sitting one of them next to my desk, which was grapefruit oil, and really just rubbing it on myself all through the day to refresh myself as I'm seeing patients. So I'm over at Mockingbird Moon, and they had these beautiful glass vials that had little chips of minerals and crystals. And so there was a lovely blend of peppermint and lemon, which two of my favorite things. And they blend quite well, surprisingly. And so they were in a bottle that had little soda-light crystals. So I couldn't help it. I bought it. And then there was an empty bottle. Well, it was empty of oil, but it had little fluorite crystals that were a pleasing green. And I thought they'd go beautifully with my grapefruit essential oil. So I now have these two pretty vials by my desk. I don't know how I'm going to make those. Well, I still have other essential oil in my bathroom cabinet to make the toilet balms. But I'm really, really enjoying having essential oils by my desk. So there are the pictures of the two vials, and I'm enjoying that. Meanwhile, on to the blather. Have you ever tried a one-day vacation? I do that. When I've had enough, I go out to the coast. This could really be disrupted by my trip to Big Bear Lake. Except Big Bear Lake, there's some pretty hairy driving to get there. When you get to the coast, it's a lot easier driving. It takes almost as much time, but it's just much easier. And did I mention I know exactly where the Starbucks is halfway? Okay, so I went out to Ventura for a one-day vacation this past Monday. And I was just crazy because last week was crazy at work. Just weird stuff dropping out of the skies. Nothing really unmanageable, but I just felt stressed like crazy. So I went out to Ventura, and I went to Mockingbird Moon, and I also went, where did I go? Oh, I went to Target. I had a rip snorter in Target. I was going to go in there and eat keto ice cream and decided I could eat keto fluff and it would probably be fewer carbs, which it is. Anyway, I just bummed around Ventura and came home. And I just enjoyed it. It was just an escape. And as I go out there, I always feel stress like dropping off me in layers. And by the time I get out to Ventura, it doesn't matter what I do. I can go to a Barnes & Noble and sit in their parking lot and read. I just feel better. Okay, it's true. I went to Blaze Pizza. Okay, it's true. It's the worst Blaze Pizza I've ever had. Blaze Pizza is usually great. This chick basically gave me a keto cracker with a little tomato sauce spread on it. But I did enjoy my time at Mockingbird Moon. And so I put a picture up of the crystals I ended up with. There you can see on the far left the little humble original moonstone, and then there were the fruits of kindness spread across my hand there. But I like those. I don't really know the properties that well. He was saying that fluorite was good for stress. I hope so, because now I've got it in my little vial with my grapefruit essential oil too. But I love amethyst, I love moonstone, and Twin Face is big on sodalite. She says, according to the Chinese zodiac, this is the year we shall have sodalite. I don't know, but I got a little blue mesh bag, a tulle, for those of you who sew, and it's just hanging off one of the knobs of my radio in my car with these 4 beautiful stones in it, because I don't know what it's doing for my car, but I just think it's making my car better. And in the meantime, I took the samples of incense that this guy gave me, stick incense, and I just ran them through my phone holder. So now my car smells delicious and it has beautiful guardian stones in it. What can I say? But it really helped me to feel better. Now, in the meantime, there's a lovely picture of our pony Roxy, because Roxy has now been with us for 8 years. It's unbelievable. We got her when my kid was 7. He's 15. And I got her in the beginning of that summer, if I remember correctly. So there she is. She was a 10-year-old when we got her. She's 18 glorious years old. She's our pony pal. She's our pasture pet. We just go out and we all pet her, and she likes us to come out and just schnoodle with her, hold her head and pet her and all that. She's not that fond of me. She does not like women. She likes men. So she now tolerates me, and I can pet her and cuddle her. The best way to approach Roxy is to meditate first. I'm not making that up. When I meditate, I think it's that it puts me in a calmer place and more in the right side of my brain, and that calms her down. So there's a picture because my husband was out there and she was just flirting with him and he was kissing her and petting her and scratching between her ears. And he walked away and she gave this very poignant neigh to get him to come back. And so there's a picture of her neighing after my beloved. Now, meanwhile, LA County, we're back at wearing masks indoors. We have to do it regardless of whether or not we've been vaccinated. Now, gee, I mean, is this a surprise to anybody? We took them off for July 4th because the CDC, in a random flash of madness, said, take them off. If you got vaccinated, you deserve to be happy. Take them off. Yeah, well, too bad for those kids under 12 who weren't vaccinated. This has always annoyed me, that we were told to take them off. It's really bothered me because, like, what? It's not bad enough that we have school shootings at primary schools and high schools. Now we take off our masks. Like, what do we have against our children? I'm just really curious. Okay, so now we're wearing masks indoors and we're having a COVID surge among the unvaccinated. You know, who is really, really surprised? Oh, by the way, Dr. Fauci, well done. Well done. Well done calling that moron in the middle of a congressional meeting when he accused you of committing a crime. Well done. Well done telling him he doesn't know what he's talking about. Well done, sir. Well played. I'm not going to mention the moron's name. He doesn't deserve space in my bandwidth. Meanwhile, Minerva gets the last word. Okay, I put pictures of Minerva looking because I realize now that she's a little bit neurotic about me leaving her. She doesn't want a lot of contact with me, but she wants to stare at me. She just gets comfort from seeing me. So I look down from bed in the dark, so I had to brighten that first picture a lot. And there's these big lemon eyes staring. Now, the important thing about those eyes, that means she's hunting. When her eyes are that big and round, she's in hunting mode. That's why I took the picture from a distance and it's all blurry and all that, because that is a cat in hunting mode. When you see eyes like that, back off. But that is Minerva watching, and I was amused because the other day I was in the living room, and the couch is pressed up against the window, and there's a ledge on the window that is below the back of the couch. So she was lying on the ledge. I didn't realize she was there until I saw this head just leaning out watching as I went by, and I managed to creep behind her and get her to look that way again to take the picture. Cats watch you because they love you, even when they're hunting you. It's a cat compliment to stare at you. And I enjoy the fact Minerva has taken now to watching me and to lying next to me. Now, if I try to pet her, she often will turn around and bite me. And I'm trying to see if she's aggressive or what exactly she's doing, because she does gentle bites. And I was following a cat site and they were calling it kisses. And I thought, it's true, cats do nibble on each other affectionately. It is possible that Minerva's been biting me because she's overdoing the cat kiss. And she doesn't know how to do it right because Mom didn't teach her. So anyway, I'm trying to go very, very slowly and pet her. And sure enough, I have to think very hard about what does she look like she wants in this position. Here's what she doesn't want: me to rub her tummy, okay? Very few cats want you to touch their stomachs, but when they lie stretched out and you can see their stomach, that is a compliment to you. They're saying they trust you because they're exposing their bellies. They don't do that when they're nervous. The other thing is you watch their eyes, because when a cat is happy, it makes its eyes more narrow. It may not make them real narrow, but they won't be wide open. And Minerva has really taught me this. When her eyes are wide open, you're about to get pounced on. So, the trick with Minerva is when you see her looking straight at you and her eyes are slightly narrowed, you look at her the same way. You look at her with wide eyes and you slowly narrow them. And that is you using cat sign language to tell the cat that you love her too. When I do that, she will often trill and walk over to me. So Minerva gets the last word, just like Eleanor got the first word, because she is magnificent in her kindness, and yet she knows she is simply a paragon of beauty. So in the meantime, that's all I have to say this week. And oh yeah, one more thing, shingles. Oh my gosh, do you know I'm still having occasional random pain from the shingles vax over a week ago? Yeah, someone was telling me their mother refused to get the second vaccine because the pain was too bad. It's a lot harder to take than the COVID vax was. At the same time, I'm really impressed. If this is what a shingles vaccine feels like, I'm terrified of getting shingles. And I'm getting the vaccine now because I'll be 61 in a few weeks. And I just realized, look, you only do it once, and I'm going to do it now because I'm maxed out on immunity right now. I'm as good as I'm ever going to be, let's face it. It's only downhill from here. Oh no! But anyway, so I'm working my way through that. And I had to admit, I am taking 2 days off after I get the next shot in September because I'm pretty sure I'm going to need to. I could have taken 2 days off this time. I'm still getting a little bit of random jabbing pain around my abdomen and my back. It's pretty impressive. I didn't get a fever, but the fatigue was very noteworthy. I was just exhausted for days. I'm not completely sure I'm over it. We all got a cold. Strangely, my immune system is ramped up, so I'm the one who always gets the worst illnesses in the family. I got the cold. I just blew it right off because I think I was ramped up for the shingles shot. So there you go. So that's all the news that's fit to print. Minerva, sorry you didn't quite get the last word, but I tried. In the meantime, please remember, get your shot. Wear your mask. Remember that little kids aren't vaccinated. Kids under 12 are not vaccinated. Wash your hands. Social distance. Because the whole point of this whole exercise is everybody please stay safe, take care of each other, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye. So we have come to the end of another episode of Cognitive. Please do not use this podcast to diagnose yourself. If you think you are having a mental health problem, please contact a licensed mental health professional. Show notes for these episodes can be found at cognitivepodcast, all one word, .blogspot.com. Episodes can be found at iTunes under the name Cognitive Podcast, but also can be found posted next to the show notes on the Blogspot page. Thank you so much for listening. Everybody, stay safe, take care of each other, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.